So, Nick Pearce, obviously we're from Wales. Object Matrix is the fastest growing Welsh storage company. So just to sort of warm you guys up, I'm going to ask you a question. How heavy is a petabyte? Anyone know what a petabyte is? Hands up. I know you do. You just bought one. Yeah. So for the benefit of the rest of you, a petabyte is 1,000 terabytes. In the year 2000, EMC, the world's largest storage company, had one customer with a petabyte. They now have over 3,000 with a petabyte, and some with exabytes, which is craziness. So, in 1998, in 1980, it weighed 250,000 tons, and it cost $40 billion. Now, if you're an avid customer, you won't be unfamiliar with this sort of pricing level. Sorry, guys. It's too easy. Today, with 4 terabyte drives readily available, we can see it's dropped down to the size of a decent sports bike and costs considerably less. Now, what this actually tells us is that it's becoming more easy and affordable to keep stuff on disk, more so than we would have done in the past, because when you got an IBM disk that cost that much, you could only keep so much on it. You'd have to put it on some offline media. Now, with the price that we've got here and the space that it's taking up, we're actually seeing that more and more people are keeping more on disk, and that's causing its own problems about how you find it and how you manage it and protect it. So I'm actually going to talk about a part of the storage called Nearline Storage. And anyone familiar with that term? So we'll ask what it is, why is it different, how is it used, and sort of who are the main players. So the definition from Wikipedia is a mix-up of the two words near online, and somewhere between your online storage, show your Avid ISIS, your XAN, your Quantum, and your offline being your tape or optical media. And typically it's something that, as was just mentioned by Chopper, you need to have your hands on your data, but you don't want it filling a production disk. So how is it different? So, your online storage, refreshingly and necessarily expensive. It guarantees your performance. So it guarantees streams of data to your editors. Your Nearline, it's quite fast, but it's a lot more secure, or should be. It guarantees your data will be there when you need it. It doesn't necessarily guarantee you the streams of data. Oh, sorry, this is tape. It takes a while to come in. So this is for my friend Spectralogic outside, but that's fine. I'm just joking. And so if you've got your data in a Spectralogic or any other tape vendors do exist, library, and it's in the slots, then you can get access to it pretty quickly. It's quite a cost-effective mechanism. If any of that content sat on a shelf, then effectively, it takes days to get hold of it, if you can. So it kind of gives you an indication that you need this. You need to spend some money on your online storage, but you don't now need as much as you possibly would have before. Because until recently, the option here was to buy a second Ferrari or a Ferrari Caravan. We're seeing now a lot more people pumping for a Nearline storage, of which we're a vendor. And as we'll mention later, Avid have entered the game there, and you have other people, Isilon, all the rest of it. So does that slide make sense? Any questions on the term Nearline? So how is it used? Well, Nearline's somewhere where you need to protect data, so it's not clogging up your online storage, but it's still available. So somewhere secure to keep your rushes. You've got loads of rushes coming in, you need a dumping ground, but you need to make sure it's protected and can be accessed by your editors. A temporary parking space. We hear the word parking quite a lot. One of our partners, Marquis, has a project parking space in the Avid world. That's where you've got a very full SAN, ISIS, XAN. You need to move content off it because you've got new work coming in. But you don't want to move it to tape because you're going to need access to it very soon. So that's that temporary parking space. And finally, this could be more actually going into a slightly deeper archive in that you may have assets you just need to have available all the time. So British Telecom, the Vision platform, they've got all of the content that they have for that platform on a Nearline archive. So they can chop and change that at will. They move it onto a very fast SAN to do the actual editing work. But it's keeping that content, that pool of content available for reuse, repurposing. I read a statistic somewhere that these days a new piece of content is likely to be reversioned sort of 30 times upwards. So if you're going to do that reversioning for territories or cutting it for certain demographics, then you need to make sure you've actually got this stuff available. But again, you don't want it clogging up that more tier 1 storage. So Nearline really should be, your man for all seasons. It should be able to deep into the old deep archive, so you can keep some of your promo teams may always have access to your reels there. But likewise, you might also want to dip into the Nearline and have a look at something before you decide to bring it back. Because you may not want to bring back terabytes of content onto your online platform if it's not the right stuff. So you can do that either by looking directly at the content in the Nearline, or that in combination with some form of asset management. Also, ideally, your Nearline will be accessible from all forms of tools, whether it's Avid, Autodesk, Adobe. You don't particularly want to pick a platform that's only suited to one workflow. That should be a more generic bit of storage in your infrastructure that can be used everywhere. Also, you might want to give clients access to their work for approvals. The admin teams may need to grab hold of content for billing purposes, promo teams. So it becomes quite a bit of a central hub for your organization, whilst also relieving the online of the capacity. So very recently it was pointed out there are 5 sort of main players in the Nearline space within the creative industries. The term Nearline has been around for quite a while in the generic IT world. Tiered storage is something that's not new at all. So obviously we see ourselves as market leaders. You have Isilon, Harmonix Media Grid, the newly introduced ISIS 2000, and also NetApp do have some form of storage here. But they offer very different things. Some of them are just very big pools of storage. You want a big pool of storage, and you want to manage where data goes in that big pool of storage, then some of them do a very good job at that. The Isilon clustered solutions that allow you to scale that pool of storage to enormous amounts with a lot of intelligent sort of self-healing and self-managing built in. And then thirdly, you have all of the above, essentially, in terms of having a scalable solution that you can start small with for what you need, add in what you want over time, but also it's integrated into your workflow. So if you're in Avid land, you want to be able to look at your clips, you're able to do so. If you use Avid Interplay, choosing solutions that are integrated into your workflow is what you should be looking for. So you don't really necessarily want to learn a new tool or a new set of skills. The storage should appear as part of your workflow almost seamlessly. And that work is done by the vendors working together on your behalf. So our product, Matrix Store, there's a lot of things on this slide. I won't talk about all of them, is a clustered storage product. Our company's been around for 9 years. We are ex-EMC employees. I don't know what we quite spent the first 7 years doing, but the last 2 years we've been working very much in the file-based arena, protecting tapeless content on ingest and in parking. It absolutely complements existing infrastructure. It's meant to work alongside your SANs or your Unities or ISIS. And we've done our best as a company to integrate into the workflows you're using. So we have Final Cut workflows, Avid workflows. We only sell to the creative video industries, although our product is more horizontal than that. So it's currently used in 3 ways: rushes management, parking Nearline, and a little bit of long-term archive. So if you don't have 2 copies, you don't have it. I mean, some insurance companies are saying 3, and in different locations. So the way that we protect your data is that we guarantee the authenticity of the content. So we take a digital fingerprint on the machine that you're reading the card from or pulling the data from, and we make 2 copies in Matrix Store. And we take a digital fingerprint again. And assuming they all match, then you know you're guaranteed to have 2 authentic copies of your data. That card can then be wiped or that data deleted from your ISIS or Unity. And that's guaranteed. We can also protect that content from accidental or malicious deletion. So even, okay, hands up who's never deleted anything by accident. Liars, all of you. So if you know you've got a production coming up that's going to take 3 or 4 months, you don't want to accidentally delete anything. We can actually lock this content down in a vault to stop you doing that with a retention period. This data cannot be deleted or changed for 1 month. And you can't even change that policy once it's set. Once that 1 month is passed, you can choose what to do with the data. But it just stops bad things happening. And in terms of the workflow, we're actually seeing that how you're looking after your data as a facility is coming into part of the pitches for work coming in. You never want to go back to a client to say, I've lost your data, do you have that card? We've seen that happen, and we've received purchase orders quite quickly after that. So there's an example, lots of stuff on this screen. So this is Sumner's in Manchester. Before they purchased Matrix Store, they had a single ingest station that was pushing stuff, creating proxies onto their ISIS Unity. So now any station can ingest directly into Matrix Store. Using our file system interface, they can link to it with AMA. So they can look at that content, check that it's okay. They could actually do some rough scene selection and consolidate onto their Avid storage. Or in their case, they create proxies and they relink and conform later on. But the important thing here is this doesn't need to grow. This keeps on doing the great job it does at guaranteeing streams to their editors. This is taking care of some of the workload for those many hours of rushes that are coming in various formats. They also drop a copy to take for deep archive, and also for the client occasionally likes to have LTO copies of their rushes. So the message here is it's making it easy for them to manage the content, but also there's a number of technologies here all working in harmony. You don't have to throw out existing infrastructure to sort of use a solution like Matrix Store. So we have other partners, Mog Solutions, other MAM providers, Vidispine and Phoenix 7. And customers who use this sort of workflow are Sumner's, the Gorilla in Wales, BT Centre, and also EDF, the electricity company. So parking. Basically, simply want to move stuff on and off your storage. Simple as that. Nothing too complicated, but I want to find it as well. Because as Chopper rightly said, we have a mantra, if you can't find it, you don't have it. So DropSpot is our own little archive application that runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. It comes free with our solution, and essentially allows you to add metadata to content when it goes into Matrix Store. It can automatically rip some metadata from some formats, like P2, but it then enables us 6 months down the line to search for stuff and easily bring it back, instead of having to traverse many USB drives or large RAID arrays. The idea of Matrix Store is to make your job easier. It manages the storage, so you can get on with the rest of the stuff in your business. So one of the examples here is Human Planet. The BBC had to reversion Human Planet for 40 different territories. They certainly couldn't keep it here because there was sports season was starting. So they moved all of the rushes, all of the program content onto Matrix Store. They browsed it whilst in Matrix Store to check that what they were looking for was right. And they only moved what they needed onto their ISIS to do the hardcore work. Very simple drag and drop operations. Now we have a mini version of our solution outside. I'm more than happy to show you the tools that I'm talking about here as well. Again, some of the functionality, self-healing. If hardware fails, the solution will manage the reprotection of the content. Worm-like. This is a phrase used for write once, read many, so you don't want anyone changing that content when it's in Matrix Store. It's the same for parking. You don't want that content to change when you move it. You want to be protected so it's there when you bring it back. And these are some of the differentiators that actually make your life easier as opposed to a big bunch of disks. You could go down to Maplin and buy a big G-RAID drive, but you'll be managing that, and you'll need a second copy. Solutions like this sort of take that pain away for you. So we have a number of broadcasters and post facilities using us as a parking space. There's not much to say really about this apart from that we're integrated with a number of applications. I think the previous session was about MAMs and PAMs, or one of the previous sessions. So if you're in a MAM and a PAM, the last thing you want to do is come out of that environment and go to a new environment to manage your storage. If you're within your MAM, you want to be able to say within that environment, send to archive, bring back from archive. So we've done the integration work with CatDV, Vidispine, Phoenix 7, Final Cut Server, that's now dead, and now Interplay. So if you have an asset manager you're using, then we're more than happy to integrate with any of them. It's very simple. And again, people who are using us in this manner, Viasat, British Telecom has over 700 terabytes and growing, Sony Pictures. These guys are using it to keep their content available for repurposing. Anyone with Interplay in the house? No, you have. So we've built a plugin for Interplay that doesn't need the Interplay Archive Manager. And it's very simple. Within the Interplay Archive, Interplay Assist window, you simply drag projects into to be archived, and it gets archived for you. And it updates a column within the window. Nothing about Object Matrix here. There's no Object Matrix tool. If you're in the Interplay environment, you stay in the Interplay environment, and you send stuff to and from the archive within that environment. It just makes your job that little bit easier than having to go to a separate tool set. And it does the very things you need to happen. It moves the big files off your storage and pushes them back when you need it. And again, BBC, a lot of environments are obviously mixed, as I mentioned previously. You have Interplay workflows, non-Interplay, Avid, Final Cut, Adobe, all in one facility or company. So ideally, the Nearline platform that you choose should be able to exist in all of those. So again, obviously with the Welsh rugby season coming, they used to keep all of the last 2 or 3 years footage here, so they could dip in and pick out clips of players that they were focusing on. That took up an enormous amount of space here, so they've moved it all into Matrix Store. And they're able to access it from Media Composer and pull out the bits that they need when they need them, allowing this to stay at a more sensible level of capacity. So it's all about, if you've got content that you need to keep available for repurposing or reuse, you need to think about a platform that can support that at maybe an asset management level, but also at a storage level. And maybe start to think about that tiered approach of online, nearline, and even tape.